The small town of Eldridge had been living a quiet and peaceful life for many years. However, beneath this serene appearance lay a dark secret. On the outskirts of the town, the ruins of an old mansion stood. This mansion, abandoned for years, was believed to be cursed by the locals. No one dared to approach it, for according to the stories, eerie sounds could be heard there at night. One evening, a brave young man named Mark decided to explore the mansion with his friends. As the sun set, the sky turned blood red, and a cold wind began to blow. His friends admired Mark's courage but felt a sense of fear within them. Still, their curiosity drove them forward. When they arrived at the mansion, the rusty hinges of the door creaked open. Inside was dark, illuminated only by the moonlight. The old portraits on the walls had faded with time. Their eyes seemed to watch them. As Mark and his friends wandered through the mansion, they began to hear strange noises. At first, they thought it was just the wind, but then it transformed into a whispering voice. Gathering his courage, Mark headed towards the room where the sound was coming from. As he opened the door, a dark shadow appeared. The face of the shadow was indistinct, but its eyes were glowing. They held an emptiness, a deep sorrow. Just as Mark tried to back away, the shadow quickly approached him. "You left me here alone," it said. "Now you will come with me." When Mark's friends heard his screams, they rushed to his side. But Mark was no longer there. From that day on, another young man went missing in the town. Eldridge had fallen under the grip of a terrifying curse. Every night, the voice of Mark echoed near the old mansion. Over time, the townspeople began to avoid going out at night and stayed far away from the old mansion. However, the brave ones still tried to venture there. Each time someone went, they never returned. The town was filled with a dark secret, condemned to live under the shadow of fear. One night, a few more brave youths gathered their courage and went to the mansion. As they entered, they felt something was wrong. The eyes of the portraits on the walls seemed to watch them. When the silence within was broken, the whispering voices began again. "Don't leave me here," echoed around them. Gripping each other's hands tightly, they began to retreat. But as the door slammed shut, a cold wind rushed in. In that moment, the shadow reappeared, and the youths were forced to confront the deepest form of terror. As the young people ran to escape the mansion, the shadow's voice echoed once more, "You will become like me." From that day on, the town of Eldridge grew darker with the memory of each lost youth. The old mansion continued to be the center of a curse that no one dared to face. And every night, with the whispers of the wind telling tales, the face of fear awaited a new victim. Once upon a time, in a quiet town, there was a legend about a lost diary that had been missing for a long time. The diary belonged to a young girl named Eliza, who had lived there. Eliza had suddenly disappeared years ago, leaving behind only her diary. The townspeople believed that Eliza's disappearance was linked to the dark secrets contained within her diary. One day, a brave group of teenagers decided to investigate the place where Eliza had gone missing. They set off into the depths of the forest outside the town to find the location where her lost diary was rumored to be. The mist among the trees added a chilling atmosphere to their journey. Deep in the forest, they found an old cabin that once belonged to Eliza. The cabin had decayed over time, succumbing to nature's grasp. As they entered, they were met with a dark silence. Old pictures hung on the walls. One of them caught the attention of one of the teens. It was a smiling face of Eliza. However, the emptiness in her eyes made them feel that something was wrong. As they explored the cabin, they discovered a dusty diary on a table. When they opened the diary, they encountered terrifying notes written by Eliza. The diary spoke of a portal to a dark world of spirits. At midnight, you must confront the lost souls in the shadows, it wrote. Otherwise, you will be lost like me. The teens felt the weight of these words, but their curiosity overpowered their fear. They continued reading the diary, uncovering more horrifying details on each page. Eliza described a ritual to summon the lost souls. Summoning their courage, they decided to perform the ritual. When midnight came, the teens formed a circle in the center of the cabin and prepared according to Eliza's instructions in the diary. The sky was overcast, and the moon shone like a solitary light in the darkness. As the ritual began, the air suddenly turned cold, and a wind started to sway the cabin violently. Shadows began to dance around the teens, and they started to hear sorrowful whispers. "The lost souls are here," a voice rose. The teens clung to each other in fear. In that moment, Eliza's silhouette appeared. Her eyes were empty, but there was a heart-wrenching pain within them. "Help me," Eliza said, her voice echoing as she moved around the cabin. "I am trapped here. Don't leave me." The teens, moved by the anguish in Eliza's gaze, tried to help her. But no matter what they did, Eliza was drawing them closer. At that moment, every word in the diary became real. One of the teens realized that Eliza's spirit was trapped in this world and closed the diary to end the ritual. However, with this action, Eliza's anger flared. "You cannot leave me," she whispered, her voice filled with a threat. They began to run away, but shadows were watching them as they exited the cabin. As they fled the forest, the teens understood that they would never return. Eliza's spirit and the lost souls would forever guard the diary. From that day on, in the depths of the forest, the lost diary and Eliza's ghost continued to roam, whispering along with the winds at night. The townsfolk knew there was a secret in the forest, but out of fear, they never dared to venture there. Once upon a time, there was an abandoned school on the outskirts of a village. The doors of the school were always closed, and the windows were dirty. According to the legend, the spirits of students who had been imprisoned by a teacher and never returned were believed to haunt the school. When night fell, villagers reported hearing strange sounds coming from the school, whispers, cries, and sometimes terrifying screams. A group of young people decided to investigate whether these stories were true. As darkness descended, they gathered their courage and pushed open the school's door. Upon entering, they were met with a heavy silence. The walls were filled with forgotten memories, and as they walked between the dusty desks, they sensed that something was wrong. As they slowly explored the classrooms, they suddenly heard a voice. "Help us," it whispered. The young people exchanged fearful glances. They decided to move closer to the source of the sound. As they walked down the corridor, they noticed the doors opening and closing on their own. They pressed on, feeling as if something was watching them from within the school. Finally, they reached a classroom. In the center of the room was an old desk, and on it lay an open diary. One of the young people stepped forward to examine the diary. It was filled with the thoughts and feelings of the lost students. "We want to escape," it read, "but we are trapped here." Just then, the door to the room slammed shut, and darkness enveloped them. The young people recoiled in terror as the door locked. "Let us go!" a voice shouted. An eerie whisper surrounded them. Shadows with glowing eyes began to appear around them. One young person gathered the courage to push against the door, but it wouldn't budge. At that moment, a figure emerged from the corner of the room. Its eyes were filled with a deep emptiness, and it was surrounded by a dark aura. "You must stay here," the figure said. "You must come with us." As the young people panicked and tried to escape, the figure stopped them. "Do not forget us," it whispered. Suddenly, a light illuminated the room, and the young people found themselves outside. They stood in front of the school, everything appearing normal, but the fear lingered within them. The next day, villagers heard the story of the young people who had dared to enter the school. Their belief in the spirits of the abandoned school grew stronger. The young people never forgot the terrifying experience they had and felt deep down that the whispers from the school would return one day. From that day on, the village lived in greater fear of the abandoned school. Everyone knew that the shadows behind the sounds would one day return, and when they did, no soul would ever escape.